As time goes on, I've been shooting nights more and more. For me, cities come to life at night, and I find myself drawn to capturing street scenes after the sun goes down. So in this episode, I'm going to share some tips and advice on shooting at nighttime. And these are techniques I picked up from doing street photography for the past 5 to 6 years. Photography at nighttime is inherently harder than shooting during the day, simply because there's less light to work with. With photography, we're always chasing light, we're always using light. Without light, there is no photography, and at nighttime, there's less light to work with. Now, it's easy to say find interest in light, but doing that at nighttime is actually harder than it sounds. I'm talking about street lights or lights coming from buildings, lights coming from shop fronts, even lights coming from cars, the brake lights where red light will come from the back, the harsh direct headlights. You can use all of these elements during the night to light your scenes, light your subjects, and capture interesting images. Now during the day, as most things are lit by the sun, it's pretty consistent and the light's pretty much the same color. Whereas at nighttime, if you walk past a shop front and there's a neon which is red, your subject is going to be lit in red. Now these are scenarios you don't come across during the daytime, but are pretty common at nighttime. And this is the really fun part of shooting at night, because you can use those colors to help tell a story or add emotion to your images. Another good technique to use is to have your subject in front of a bright light. You then expose for the bright light and your subject will be a silhouette. Again, this immediately adds a sense of isolation to your images or loneliness, and is an easy way to inject a storyline into an otherwise boring image. When it comes to shooting nights, I see a lot of photographers purely focusing on bokeh, out of focus areas, and getting those flashy colors in the background. Now, I've always said on this channel, you don't want to be focusing on taking individual images for social media. Instead, you want to capture photos which either tell a story or convey some sort of emotion. And this is where shooting at nighttime comes in. Recently, in my case, I'm looking to capture stories of loneliness. So we're in these gigantic cities with millions of people, but people are often pretty lonely in these cities. And through my photography, I try to capture these aspects of living in the city like London. Now for me, capturing those scenes at daytime is harder because a bright day with blue skies and sunshine doesn't really convey that story. Whereas shooting at nighttime, where it's raining, there's not many people about, maybe there's some blue light shining onto my subject to add to that element of sadness through color. These elements help tell the story I want to tell through photography. When shooting at night, you really want to capture the fact that you're shooting in dark conditions. It's okay to have areas with deep shadows and blacks with absolutely no detail in them. In fact, those areas are going to help tell the story of the photo. Shooting at night adds mystery as less is seen. You can really focus on exactly what you want to focus on while leaving the rest in the shadows. Rainy nights are probably my favorite conditions to shoot in. Whenever I see that rain's gonna fall on the forecast, those are the days I'm usually out shooting. And the reason is, when you go out at nighttime to shoot and it's either raining or it has rained, all the floor is reflecting all the lights from the shops and the street lights and the cars and so on. So everything becomes more interesting. You can get a lot more creative when it comes to capturing reflections, shooting into puddles, or using the colors in the floor to make your images look more interesting. To be honest, the worse the weather is at nighttime, the better it is for your photography. You gotta think of rain and fog as nature's own special effects, and it's just a really easy way to add another element of interest, another layer of interest to your photography without really having to do much else other than turn up. Now obviously, when shooting nights, especially if it's raining and it's winter, what you wear will have a massive impact on the photos you take that day. The more comfortable you are, the warmer you are, the more you'll be focusing on your photography and not worrying about getting your feet wet or being cold. So a good pair of waterproof trainers, some warm trousers, a good coat all go a long way to capturing good photos at nighttime. It's often not talked about too much when it comes to photography tip videos and stuff like that, but I really do believe how you prepare and what you wear does play a massive role in the images you take that night or even that day. The right camera gear and settings on your camera are going to go a long way to you capturing good photos at nighttime. Now, it doesn't mean you need to buy an expensive fast lens in order to shoot at nighttime. A lot of my photography at nighttime was shot on my f2.8 zoom lens or my small Fujifilm f2 lenses. Neither of these are classed as fast lenses, nor are they really designed for shooting at nighttime. If you have a prime, go with that over a zoom lens. Usually primes are faster and they're smaller and lighter too. When it comes to your settings, always try to shoot in RAW. This will give you more leeway in post when it comes to playing around with the shadows and highlights. Second up, don't be afraid to use high ISOs. I'm often using anywhere between 1600 up to 6400 ISO, and when it comes to shutter speed, I tend to stay at around the 50th of a second and above. Now, if you want to bring some motion into your images, for example, have the motion of people walking or cars going past, I'd say use somewhere in the region of a 10th or a 15th of a second. If your camera has in-body stabilization, that will make taking these shots a lot easier. And one final piece of advice when it comes to settings at nighttime is to always expose for the highlights in your scene. With digital photography, it's always much easier to recover details from shadows and dark areas as it is from highlights. Usually, if your highlights are blown out, it's near impossible to recover the detail in there. Whereas with shadows, even if the part of the photo is completely dark, there's usually lots of detail still in there, and using programs like Lightroom, you can bring those details back. So as winter draws in and the days get shorter, it really is the perfect time to start shooting nights. And I hope this episode will help inspire you to go out shooting after the sun sets. Now, it is worth noting when shooting at nighttime, you do have to be a bit more careful. Inherently, nighttimes are more dangerous than daytimes. There's less people about. So just keep that in mind. Don't walk around with a ton of photography gear. Bring a little bag with you. If you're feeling a bit unsafe, slip your camera into the bag. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. As long as you stick to relatively busy areas, city centers, you should be okay. If possible, go out with a friend. But yeah, just have fun out there and remember to stay safe. If you have any questions regarding street photography at nighttime, drop those in the comments below and I will get back to you. A huge thanks for watching this, and I'll catch you in the next one.